We have been listening to former President Trump at a campaign rally in Aurora, Colorado. The former president, as you can see there, standing in front of signs with the deliberate message, end migrant crime and deport illegals now, echoing false claims that he is repeating about Aurora, Colorado. Former president claiming that apartment complexes there were overtaken by violent Venezuelan gangs. In reality, Aurora's police chief has said that gang members have not taken over those apartment complexes, that they were not collecting rent. And in a statement ahead of the former president's visit, we did hear from Aurora's mayor saying that this is an opportunity to show the former president the nation is a considerably safe city, not overrun by Venezuelan gangs. The former president doubling down on his message of immigration, using extreme rhetoric here. And I want to bring in ABC's senior congressional correspondent Rachel Scott, who is covering the Trump campaign for us. She is there in the room with the former president. Rachel, talk about what the president's message has been so far there.
Yeah, the former president not at all backing away from these false claims about what is happening here in Aurora, despite the governor, despite the police chief, despite the Republican mayor, all saying that those claims are grossly exaggerated. And because the former president, and we took this live, you just heard him repeat some of these false and misleading statements. I want to just read to you again what we have from officials here in this town that completely dispute that. You have the police chief, who has said in a press conference just last month, this is not an immigration issue, this is a crime issue. We are not by any means overtaken by Venezuelan gangs. You also have the Republican mayor of Aurora, who went on the record to say that these incidents are limited to several apartment complexes in a city that's more than 400,000 residents. He says the reality is that the concerns about Venezuelan gang activity have been grossly over-exaggerated. So once again, you have this split screen that we have seen many times before, Elizabeth, where the former president comes in front of his supporters. He repeats claims about immigration or about migrants that are just simply not true, that we hear from leaders in these communities, including Republican officials and leaders who say that the former president is grossly exaggerating those claims. Immigration is at the core of Donald Trump's message. He's zeroing in on it right now. He's playing a video that he's been playing out on the campaign trail, talking about what he believes is the migrant crisis in this country that's really hammering Vice President Kamala Harris on this issue. He is ahead on Kamala Harris. He does have the edge on this issue in the polls. But again, I will tell you the amount of officials that I have talked to, from police officials to even Republicans in these communities, who feel like these claims, especially when they are false claims, are just simply not worth it when you have the former president using a podium and using an audience to communicate false information to this community in an election year, Elizabeth.
And Rachel, so notable, as you point out there, that the mayor of Aurora is a Republican. Many of those officials speaking out, members of the former president's own party. Let's bring in Mary Alice Parks, who's at the White House, has been following this for us. We also heard, Mary Alice, former President Trump make the argument that he could flip Colorado. We know it's a state, this has not gone red since 2004. Why do you think he's in Colorado? What's the likelihood of that? But also, why go there when we're getting into really what is the final push here a couple weeks out from the election?
A few things stick out. There are a few competitive House races. Clearly, he's trying to make sure that Republicans in the state are feeling the love, feeling support from him. But you're right, it is largely a blue state. It enjoys a sort of a blue Democratic governor to Democratic senators. So Democrats in the state, I will tell you, feel pretty good. Harris feels like she has sort of a solid lead in the polling there. But it's interesting, this message about immigration. You know, I do think part of the reason he's going there is what Rachel said, to hit this message. I mean, we saw some of that video play out of gang violence in an apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado. Now, yes, we have seen Republican officials, even Republican officials in the state, say that Trump grossly exaggerated what happened that day. But nonetheless, Trump zeroing in on this as a part of a national campaign and a national message, saying over and over again that cities around the country are being overrun, in his words, by undocumented immigrants. I'm thinking about his conversation just yesterday when he was in Detroit, and he talked about how Detroit was a mess. This is largely the language and the rhetoric from the former president on the campaign trail. You know, it is interesting to me because I talk to a lot of voters who want the candidates, both candidates, to talk about a range of issues. They bring up to me things like childcare, health care, needing better VA benefits. But in the last few weeks of this campaign, we have seen Trump almost exclusively talk about this anti-immigration sort of message and policy platform. Elizabeth.
And doubling down again today, Mary Alice Parks at the White House, Rachel Scott there in Aurora, Colorado. Appreciate both of you. Thanks so much.